Hi, this is Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief for The Contrarian. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Judge Susan Crawford. She is on the ballot in Wisconsin in April 1, to fill a seat of a retiring justice on the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. And as you have heard from us, this is a critical state and a critical seat on the state Supreme Court, which handles all sorts of election issues as well as major constitutional issues like abortion, and really will have ramifications throughout the United States. Welcome, Judge. Thank you for making time for us.
Thanks so much, Jen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Abortion is clearly a major issue in this case. It is not appropriate for a judge to comment on how he or she would rule, but talk to us a little bit about how you approach the issue, what values you bring, and how you analyze big constitutional issues like this.
Jen, I think that it's important when we're talking about abortion to reflect back to why we're here today with this issue. We are here because of the Dobbs decision by the United States Supreme Court, which overturned the Roe versus Wade decision. And in doing so, it threw out a 50-year-old precedent, nearly 50-year-old precedent that generations of women had been able to rely on as protection for their constitutional rights to make their own healthcare decisions. I've reviewed that decision. I disagree with it. I think that it was poorly reasoned, and there was not an adequate rationale in that case, in my mind, to overturn a precedent that had recognized constitutional rights. It means that my 23-year-old daughter does not have the same rights under the Constitution that I had when I was 23 years old. So just starting from there, that is the reason why in Wisconsin, like many other states, we're seeing this flurry of court cases to try to determine whether and to what extent women's rights to make healthcare decisions while they are pregnant are protected under our laws. And in Wisconsin, one of the current cases in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court involves an 1849 law that many interpret as a criminal ban on just about all abortions in Wisconsin. And my belief is that for a state Supreme Court looking at an issue like that, there needs to be very close scrutiny of governmental decisions that intrude into some of these very private and personal matters, matters about bodily autonomy, about self-determination, and make determinations about whether the Constitution permits the government to take those decisions out of the hands of women or any citizens for that matter.
Your opponent has said rhetorically what's flawed about this law and has said he doesn't think there is a constitutional right in the state constitution. Is it appropriate, do you think, for a judge to make such emphatic statements? And if they're made, would he then have an obligation under the ethics code to recuse himself if the case came before him?
Well, our judicial code in Wisconsin counsels judges not to comment on pending cases. Brad Schimmel has repeatedly flouted that rule. And yes, I believe that he should recuse himself if he's in a position to make any decisions regarding that 1849 law or any claim or case involving a constitutional right to reproductive health care decision making.
I lost count of the millions that Elon Musk is putting into this race. It's an unusual thing for a national figure, someone who's pretending to be the president of the United States, to dump millions into a state Supreme Court race. Why do you think he's doing that? And what should concern the voters of Wisconsin when someone from outside tries to pour that much money into a race?
Elon Musk is looking to buy himself a justice on the Wisconsin Supreme Court to advance a partisan political agenda. And, Brad Schimmel has made statements denying that that's the case and, trying to claim that he's going to be impartial. But, I invite voters to connect the dots. Brad Schimmel was out in Washington, D.C. For the inauguration, attending these fancy galas put on by conservative organizations, $15,000 a head galas, and came back from the inauguration, was bragging, literally bragging about being down on his knees, begging for contributions from some of these well-heeled groups and individuals. Elon Musk immediately begins tweeting about the race a few days after the inauguration. And, then lo and behold, Elon Musk is dumping millions of dollars into, primarily false attack ads against me. Just a side note on that, one of those ads actually used a photo of a different Susan Crawford who was not me. Just shows you how, how superficial Musk's understanding of this race is. He's doing it for political purposes. Brad Schimmel has done this before. He has invited campaign contributions and then taken actions as a partisan elected official to deliver the results that those funders were looking for. As Attorney General in Wisconsin, he was one of very few attorneys general across the country who refused to get our state into a national lawsuit against the opioid manufacturers, hold them accountable for all the damage that they had caused in Wisconsin, like many other states. Brad Schimmel had taken thousands of dollars of campaign contributions from the pharmaceutical industry. And he offered no explanation, no valid explanation for why it was that he, as Attorney General, top law enforcement official in the state, was not protecting the people in our state by holding those companies accountable.
Firstly, he joined Wisconsin in a lawsuit to try to throw out the Affordable Care Act,
right.
Which Wisconsin's in a variety of ways now access. He made some extraordinary comments about the January 6th defendants who were pardoned. On one hand, he did say he would not pardon someone who was convicted of beating a police officer. That sounds good. But of course, many others were involved in the overall incident. And he refused to say that President Trump was wrong to pardon all of them, and went so far as to say, had they not been tried before a DC jury, and by the way, some of them were not tried before a DC jury, and many of them confessed and pleaded guilty. In any case, he said that they would not have been convicted. Are those the appropriate comments that really any lawyer, let alone someone running for a Supreme Court justice seat, should be making?
Well, I don't think they're appropriate comments for a judge, and Brad Schimmel is a judge, a circuit court judge. He was on talk radio. This is weeks before Donald Trump pardoned all of the January 6th rioters, saying that he didn't think any of them could get a fair trial because many of the cases were brought in Washington, D.C. It was astounding to me because he was saying, why are these cases being tried in Washington, D.C.? Well, he knows very well that's the venue because that's the place the crimes happen for the most part. And he showed great disdain for the American justice system in saying that he didn't believe that any of those individuals could get a fair trial in Washington, D.C., because he believed the jurors would be Democrats. The cornerstone of our American justice system is the jury. And those comments showed that Brad Schimmel thinks that juries are political decision makers, not a body of 12 citizens who are there to hear the evidence and find the facts and make a determination about whether somebody has committed a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. So that right there is extremely concerning for a sitting judge to make those kind of comments. And then after Donald Trump did pardon all of those folks with one stroke of the pen, Brad Schimmel simply said that he did not object. And I think that is, again, just astonishing, especially for somebody like Brad Schimmel, who repeatedly touts his law and order background and the support that he has from the law enforcement community. It's obviously very superficial.
He has also made some disturbing comments that the female justices on the Supreme Court have ruled from emotion, or they're not being rational in some sense. Um, Obviously, that's offensive to many people. But talk to us a little bit about how you think judges should conduct themselves vis-a-vis colleagues, vis-a-vis lawyers. You've been on the bench, albeit at a lower level than the seat that you're running for. How do you think a judge should model judicial behavior inside the courtroom?
There's a concept called judicial demeanor, right? That says that judges should always behave professionally, should treat everyone in their courtroom with respect, and should exercise patience and restraint. Unfortunately, I think what we're seeing Brad Schimmel do on the campaign trail does not exhibit any of those qualities. He is openly attacking sitting justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court for no good reason. He's not running against them. He's running against me. I certainly have never commented on any of the behavior or, ideology of any of the sitting justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Those individuals will be my colleagues if I win this election, and I don't think it is appropriate for Brad Schimmel or any candidate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court to be, lobbying these broadsides against sitting justices.
The press, and I speak for some of my colleagues out there, and the public often likes to slot justices into an ideological lane. You're a conservative, this one's a liberal. Talk to me about what your judicial philosophy is. Regardless of whether you think that lines up sometimes with one party or the other party, how do you approach judging, and how would you describe yourself as a judge?
I identify myself as a pragmatist. So that means I look carefully at the facts of the case and the reasons that, as a circuit court judge, why are these people in my courtroom? What is their dispute? And I look carefully at the law. Have to make sure I get the law right, have to make sure that I get the facts right and determine what the truth is in a case. But I view the law as a tool for protecting the rights of Wisconsinites. And that is how I apply it. And I make decisions not based on, I'm not announcing an abstract principle. I am making a decision that's going to affect the lives of the real people in my courtroom. So that's always front and center to me. It's a very people-focused approach. And on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, I'll use that same pragmatic, common sense approach in making decisions from that vantage point. An additional layer to it on the Wisconsin Supreme Court is that the decisions of the Wisconsin Supreme Court establish precedent, and they're going to be applied in many future cases in somewhat different factual scenarios. So it's important for the Wisconsin Supreme Court justices to consider that and to consider how those decisions are going to play out in real life in the courtrooms across the state.
We will be following the race very carefully. It certainly does have national resonance, and our readers and viewers are very interested in the race. So thank you for making time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jen. I just want to tell your viewers that if they want to learn more, they can check out my campaign website, crawfordfordwi.com. Appreciate everybody who took the time to watch today.